Before we start today's episode, we would like to let you know that it contains a discussion around depression with a reference to self-harm and suicide, which may be difficult for some listeners. If you need resources for yourself or someone you love, please visit suicidepreventionlifeline.org or call the National Suicide Prevention Hotline at 1-800-273-8255. Links to both are in the show notes. Welcome to the Mom and ... podcast. We're your hosts, Suzanne Kearns
and Missy Stevens. We want to help you through everything that happens in the ellipses, from your professional life to your emotional health.
You're a mom and so much more. Let's figure out what comes next together. Welcome to the Mom and ... podcast. My name is Suzanne Kearns, and I'm a mom and ... writer, LGBTQ advocate, and this week a technical help desk for my mom's new iPhone.
Fun. I'm Missy Stevens. I'm a mom and ... writer, child advocate, and today failed dog trainer.
Okay, we need to come back around to that at the end.
Yeah, maybe we can talk about that at the end.
So today we are thrilled to be joined by our guest, Michelle Garrett. She's a mom and ... wife, mental health advocate, and founder of Divas with a Purpose, where she helps female entrepreneurs embrace their inner diva and how to find the right for them balance between family, life, and work. What we love about Michelle, well, there's a lot of things we love about Michelle. One of them is her ability to cut through the fluff and identify the specific actions that women need to take to be successful. And she knows that as a woman with families, that time is precious. So making the most of that time is really vital. So she helps her clients get really smart about creating these daily routines for consistency and productivity that meets the unique demands of their lives. But the ultimate goal, what it all boils down to, is trying to provide women in business peace of mind by being able to balance family, life, and work in a way that feels good for them. So welcome, Michelle.
Welcome.
So Suzanne, I just need you to read off my bio wherever I go now. I need that so I can just insert it in anything that I do.
Perfect.
Oh, she's awesome. Oh wait, she's me.
That is you. Isn't it nice when you hear it from the outside? You're like, you're right. That woman sounds amazing, and it is me.
Well, we know you, Michelle, and we know Divas with a Purpose from Mom 2.0. But for our listeners who have not had the privilege of going to Mom 2, who aren't as familiar with Michelle, can you tell us a little bit more about what you do and Divas with a Purpose?
Wow, that is a really loaded question.
I know. Can you make that 3 minutes long? No.
Right. And it's interesting because the way I would say that now versus a year ago, 2 years ago, 3 years ago is just so different. But in a nutshell, I am a diva. That core of it goes back down to that. And so a lot of times when people see me, they're like, diva what, right? Because Suzanne can tell you I am far from the fluff. If we're at conferences, you're usually going to see me in leggings and a big shirt, usually a diva shirt, and a backpack. So I put lipstick on for y'all today, okay?
Thank you. Oh, you got earrings. Oh, I do.
Oh, you did earrings.
But I learned at a really young age. I had a aunt that she always referred to herself as a diva, and it just kind of stuck. And as I was growing up and I learned more about life, the word diva kind of changed and shifted for me. And so it's a dynamic individual with a victorious attitude. And so 99.7% of the time, I probably don't feel like that person. It's the person that I'm striving to be, but it's been a part of my life. I officially, made it my moniker and set up the blog and everything 12 years ago.
Wow.
12 years ago. It's going to be 12 years this June. 12 years.
Congratulations.
12 years.
That's an accomplishment in the land of blogs and
right?
social media.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. And so overall, it just helps me to show up. It helps me to put one foot in front of the other each and every single day, because I know what it is that I'm striving to be and do, whether it's personally, professionally, or whatever. And then also the people that I seem to attract and I'm drawn to, because they are all on a similar journey, and we're just trying to figure this thing out the best that we can. So we're able to kind of pick different things from each other and pour into each other in different ways.
You've got great nuts and bolts type articles like planning your week in 6 simple steps and those types of things.
Yeah.
But is most of your work one-on-one consulting with people and businesses, or is it more of one to a group where you're doing the videos and those types of things? Like, what's the best way for someone who wants to work with you or learn from you to get that information?
Honestly, right now, and I swear, like every week I wake up and I say it, and then something happens and makes me change my mind. But I have recently realized and learned that I am not in the best space to do long-term one-on-one. It's just I don't have the energy for it. I know we're going to dive a little bit more into that throughout our conversation. And so right now, the best way is I have tons, like I've been doing this for 12 years. So I've got tons of content. I have different courses. I have, ebooks. I have the video courses. I have some text, like, some people like, I just want to be off the computer. I don't want to watch the videos. So I have different products that will be able to reach different people in the way that is best for them. And will do some like one-on-one like chats. I hate to have that commitment. Like I'm a commitment phobe right now. But it's amazing we can accomplish in like 45 minutes to an hour. And so I do enjoy those conversations because I get excited about other people's excitement. So if there's something that you're wanting to do or you're trying to figure it out, it's like, I love just being able to go in there and dissect it and listen to you and kind of give a different set of opinions that maybe your bestie may not say, or your family may not say, or even your business people that, they may not say the things that you need to hear. And I have a way of saying it to where it sounds really nice and southerny and happy.
That's so nice. But yeah, it can be good to get that fresh eye on things. And so now, in addition to kind of the work-life balance and entrepreneurship advice, I just want to say personally, I've really found your posts about racial injustice, conversations with your teenage son. They're informative, they're moving. They're very necessary for white moms like Missy and I, who are, we're realizing that as much as we feel like advocates, allies, we're there with you, but we know that we have our own subconscious bias that we need to unlearn, and doing the work to do that and trying to raise kids to just hopefully not have to deal with all that unlearning because they're going to be anti-racist from the get-go. But that voice is so incredibly important. Do you see yourself doing more and more of that, or sticking more with the business side? Because I know it's not your job to educate us all on racial inequality. We need to do that work ourselves, but it's just appreciated. So we want to say thank you for it, even though that is not your obligation to inform and educate us white ladies.
It's going to happen. And it's just one of those things where it's a part of who I am. It's a part of my history. It's a part of how I was raised. I was born and raised in Charleston, South Carolina. Actually, I was born and raised on the outskirts of Charleston, South Carolina, which is, I was called the worst of the worst names before I was even in grade school. I can still remember going to the fair, and this cute little white boy was sitting next to me on the little thing where you get in the chair and it spins you around really fast.
Oh, yeah.
It's like a swing. I sat down next to him, and I remember him looking at me and saying, "You can't sit there." And I was like, "Why not?" He was like, "Because you're an ugly N-word." And I was like, "Well, number one, I know I'm cute, so I don't know who." And it's interesting because so much of what has happened over the past few years, there was a time where I just kind of felt numb to it because there were experiences that I have been experiencing like all my life. And I know depending on what part of the world that you lived in, those might not have been the norm. And so when this all first started, I was like, well, gosh, about time somebody started, realizing that, this is what we all go through in different ways.
Yeah.
And as it has gotten to the point to where it is now, I have kids now, and it's really frustrating to me because, you were talking about the letter to my teenage son. I wrote that when my oldest son, he'll be 20 this year. Oh my God. I wrote that when my oldest son was in middle school. And my baby boy, who is 6 years younger than him, I could write that exact same letter to him today. And that when I came across that and I read it, it hurt my heart because it's like, we're still here. We've made some advancements, but we're still here. The same thoughts in mind. So yes, long story short, I'm still going to have to speak out. I'm still going to, say what's on my mind. and do those things because it's who I am, it's how I was raised. And, I want this world to be better for not just my kid. Maybe they'll give me grandkids like really, 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 really long way. Okay. Not
Yeah, not anytime soon.
No rush. No rush.
at all. But I don't want them to have these conversations with their kids because it's like, where are we going? These are the same conversations my parents had, my grandparents had, my great grandparents had. And so it can be exhausting. And so I do take my step backs when I need to, but we still have to speak out. We don't have a choice. It's just something that we have to do.
Yeah. And
Right.
all of us need to speak out. I know that the point came up in our last interview that we did last week, this idea of not making a decision is making a decision.
Yeah.
And I think like your story is that, this has obviously been part of your life from the day you were born. Whereas I grew up in Southern Idaho, very white community, very white neighborhood. And so it was just one of those things I just didn't know what I didn't know.
Right.
And for the longest time, I hate to say ignorance is bliss, but it was like, oh, I don't see anyone getting hurt in my circle. And our school system seemed to teach us that, oh, yes, there were slaves and now Black people get to vote and it's all better. And it's just like,
Thank
and
y'all.
the United States school system, it's just, and I'm having those
Whitewashing.
discussions with my kids too, because we got Texas textbooks right now. And so I'm like,
I spent some time in Texas. So I graduated actually from down the street from you from Killeen High School. So
yes.
yeah.
So we're doing some pre-unlearning with our
Right.
kids. But yeah, back to by not saying anything, you're saying something. So I think it's up to us to say something and make sure that we're loud about it.
A lot of people, including myself at times. I mean, I'm unlearning things that have been part of my life for a long time. So it's so important to have people who are speaking up. And then the rest of us need to echo that and come back and say, yes, we heard you.
I think that the next visit,
Mhm.
maybe we'll dive
Maybe we
deeper
dive into that.
other topics that moms need to be aware of.
You've been really transparent in the last year about needing a self-care break, and we thank you for that. We both live with anxiety, and I won't speak for Suzanne, even though I do all the time. I won't do
That's
it now.
okay. That's
But we live with anxiety. It is something that we have learned to talk about. And so it meant a lot to us that you were willing to talk about it publicly. And so we want to thank you, first of all.
That means a lot to hear. I appreciate you. It does.
Yes.
It's been a journey, and honestly, I didn't think I was going to talk about it. I really didn't. It was something that it was like, I was like, this is just too heavy to put out there, especially for those that, know, my brain has always been like big old smile, happy go luck. Let's like look on the positive side of things. And, the past few years have just totally shifted and changed. I still have that positive outlook because if I didn't have that positive outlook, I would not be sitting in this chair today. But I'm learning that we need to talk more about the things that aren't so happy-go-lucky because like you said, so many of us are experiencing it, but we can't find people that we can relate to that are talking about it, that will say like those like not nice, ugly moments that we have. And you're like, oh wait, I'm not the only one.
Yeah.
Because when you get to that point, you feel like, and that's one of the things I had to learn because when I got to like the lowest of the low, of course, depression, because it's depression and anxiety for me. And so the depression was outweighing the anxiety. And so when you get to that low point, it's just like, it's selfish. It's like, woe is me, nobody experiences this, nobody needs me, with all of those definitive words. And you can't see like all of the wonderful things that are around you. And so getting through that and just some of the people that I connected with throughout that experience, even though I didn't want to do it, I was drawn. It was just one of those things where, just you start typing and you don't even realize what it is that you're typing or saying. And it makes a difference because a lot of it was healing for me. I do a lot of live streaming, or I did a lot of live streaming. I'm in a point where we'll see what happens, but I love watching live streams. And when I first was coming back into social media, I was on Periscope. And so what helped me to show up consistently and helped me heal was to get on Periscope every single day and just share an affirmation. And that's where a lot of this came from. It's just what that affirmation was, why it spoke to me in that day, and just how I was moving forward. And the community that I built on Periscope, I miss them so much. But the community that I built over there, they would just come and they would ask questions, or they would just be there to listen and just let me know that they were there. And it showed me that it was making a difference because of the people that would reach back out to me and say something, or that they would, they would want to share. And I would have to say at times, I was like, let's time out. I'm so glad I did this with you. I said, but I can't take on anything right now. So, find someone and that hurt because I'm a giver. I'm that person that I like to be there for people and just listen and absorb all their problems. But I had to learn that while I was absorbing their problems, I wasn't releasing it. So I was holding in all my stuff and I was holding in like everybody else's stuff. And so in that time period, I couldn't do that. I had to, and it wasn't easy, but I'm thankful for the people that appreciated it because they were able to learn something even through me saying, I can't take this on right now. And that has been a big part of my growth over the last few years. Because I have to remind myself too, sometimes like, no, you can't take that on, Michelle. That's not your struggle. That's not your journey. And then those that do confide in me, I'm able to listen, help them process if need be, or just listen and then release it. And that release part means so much.
And how were you able to tell for yourself that it was time to take a break? Was that manifesting itself physically? Like, I know it's so different for like my anxiety presents itself very physically. It's not as you would think. It was a mental thing where you're feeling anxious, but mine is a very physical heaviness, a difficulty breathing, that type of thing. And so I'm just curious, like you did like a video, gosh, was it a year ago back already? Where it was basically, I'm taking a break. And so like, what was it that was like, okay, I'm taking this break and I'm going to let y'all know.
So this is where that disclosure notice might want to go up.
Okay.
And it's, I can make light of it because like I said, I'm still here, I'm still standing. But honestly, I didn't decide on my own that it was time for me to take a break. I got to a point, and I've shared this. This is, I've been a part of a couple of anthologies, and I've talked in some smaller circles about it. But my depression got me to the point to where I no longer wanted to be here, and I took the steps to not be here anymore. And it's only because I have an amazing circle of people around me. I have to give 100% credit to my mom because she felt like something was off. She lives about 2.5 hours from me. And I don't even remember, like that whole time period is a big blur, but apparently I had sent her a text and it wasn't like the normal, like Michelle text. And so she was trying to reach me. She couldn't reach me. And so she called my husband and he was like, I just saw her. I think she's fine. But as moms, we know no matter how old our children are, like we can tell when there's something off. And so she actually called my godmother who lives in town with me. And she was like, I don't care what you're doing. I need you to go and put your eyes on my child. And my mother, my godmother, and my aunt, they're all sisters. They saved my life. I definitely would not be sitting here in this moment if they had not intervened. And that is why I had to take a break. So when of course, I was taken to the hospital. I was admitted involuntarily for about a week. And that was probably the greatest thing that happened to me because in that time period, I had no choice. And a lot of why I speak out is because I really don't want other people to get to that point to where it's forced upon you because things may not happen to where you have that second chance. And so I had no choice but to focus just on Michelle. I wasn't a wife. I wasn't a mom. I wasn't a blogger or entrepreneur, content creator. I wasn't any of those things. I was this broken individual that was just like a shell of a person focusing on building up. And when I was there, I came across like so many people that, like, if you just walk through a mall and you see all of these random people that you think they would have nothing in common, where that's us. We're like all sitting around there and it's like, how'd you get here? I don't know how you get there. How'd you get here? That's how I took a break. And so after I was released, I went to outpatient therapy and I was in there for 6 weeks. And so just once I got home, it was like sensory overload. And so
Mm,
I couldn't bring other people in.
yeah.
I was in my bubble. So the only people I was dealing with was my family, my children, my
Mm,
husband. My oldest son at that time, he had just graduated from high school. He didn't even know what was going on. My mom had made an executive decision to let him enjoy his summer because he was away with his father. And so it
mm,
wasn't until he came home closer towards the end of the summer that, I sat down and had that conversation with him. And I'm glad I did because it's allowed us to have a really open conversation. And, I say unfortunately sometimes, I hate that it forced my children to face things that they probably shouldn't have seen at such a young age. That's where that mom guilt comes in.
mm-hmm.
Um, they are, however, very much more aware and attuned to other people around them. And so,
Mm-hmm.
I've had separate conversations with my children. I have my daughter's 9 now, so she was 7 at the time. She was just finishing up first grade. And then my son, he's in 7th grade. So he was just going into middle school, I believe, when all of this was happening. And so they each reacted in different ways, but I'm able to just connect and talk with them in ways that I think we probably never would have been able to before. So that's how I took my break. And that's
Is
how I
that
learned.
is that an ongoing conversation with your kids? I'm curious
Yeah,
from that mom standpoint. It's not something you come home and just say, "This happened." How
yeah,
often do you talk about it, or does it work its way into your everyday?
it works its way into our everyday because I'm still going through it. Anyone that deals
Yeah.
with depression, anxiety, any type of mental illness knows that it's a part of your everyday
Mhm.
routine. And so I have to, I'm open with my children because there are days where, I just want to stay in bed and we'll just keep the covers over my head. And
Mhm.
everything that's been going on with the pandemic, a lot of people were just like, oh my God, these kids are here forever, what's going on. But I'll be honest, COVID-19 was a blessing for my family. The ability for us to just have to stop and pause and be home together
Mm.
and forced together because I think if we were still our normal regular routine, we'd have just gone back about our regular lives. And
Mhm.
it
Mhm.
it just it may not have been as easily to talk about. And it allowed me to really rebuild a relationship
Yeah.
with kids. With my daughter, I had to rebuild her trust. And it
Right.
took me a minute to realize that because, I think she showed how it affected her the most because, like me, she's a nurturer. And she's one of those nurturers that you don't realize is a nurturer. She's got that tough love
I
going
have
on
one
with
of
her.
those. So nurturing, but
Right.
yeah.
So, I realized that, I don't know, I think it was like one day where I was on a new medication. And the way that it affected me is that it made me super, super, super drowsy. And so I remember I had to go run an errand and I came home and it's like, all I want to do is sleep. And so I sat on my couch and I was asleep. Well, um, I had overdosed on some sleeping pills. And so that triggered my daughter because
Mm.
all she saw all of a sudden was mommy laying here and apparently like, well, if I go to sleep, I'm out. Like you can't talk to me anyways.
Scary.
But
Yeah.
it was very scary for her. And so she called my husband at work. And so like he had dropped everything and came home to see what was going on. And I'm just waking up like I sat down and watched TV and next thing I know, like I have everybody, like you wake up and everybody's like staring at you.
Oh,
And
yeah.
so that's husband and I had this conversation, like, we have to, I had to tread carefully and just
Mhm.
be open with her, a lot more open with her because my son, my middle son, he was just like, look, are you feeling better now? It's like, yeah. He's like, okay, as long as it doesn't happen again, I'm good. I'm happy. You're home. It is what it is. And I think that's kind of like the typical teen boy
Yeah.
thing.
Teen boy.
But
Mhm.
he still has he has his moments where he's a little extra attentive to his mama. But
Mhm.
uh, I struggle with that. What I was saying was I struggled with that because I didn't feel like that was their place. And again, that mom guilt that we put on there. And so, I fought against it. And finally I had a conversation with my therapist and, he was like, that's what she needs to do. That's what gives her security and comfort. Don't take that away from her. And so I just kind of fed into it. And then we've slowly had conversations where it's like, okay, mommy's feeling a lot better. I'm taking my medication on a regular basis. I'm going to see my doctors. I'm good. I don't need you to be so concerned and worried about what I'm doing and making sure that I'm taking my medication. I need you to be a child. I said, can you give mommy the ability to just like have her little girl here? Because you're not going to be a little girl for a long time. And so us having that conversation helped a lot. And again, I had to rebuild her trust to where she saw that I was doing the things that I was supposed to do, but I also had to have those conversations to let them know that there are going to be days where there are not good days. And so I had to express that to them. Like if I got up one day, I'm just like, it's not a good day. I'm going to get up. I'm going to try to put some clothing on. I'm going to try to do a couple of things, but if I need to lay down and just rest and be in this moment, I need you to let me do that. If you want to come sit here in bed with me and read a book or watch TV, or just lay here and play a video game or whatever, you're more than welcome to do that. But I need to be able to go through these emotions, and they respected that.
Well, I'm honored that you trust us with that and shared that with us. And I know you've shared this story before, but I'm sure retelling it again is probably hard, but also healing. And I just feel that these stories are gifts and that you trust us with it. I'm just really honored. So thank you for sharing that. And I think you're going to help so many people with your story.
I agree.
And I'm sure already have, and your own children and your family with your story.
Yeah.
I'm sure with the mom guilt, we're very familiar with that on all kinds of different scales. But I think that dialogue and that trust that's building, or that different type of trust and that new relationship that builds out of that, I can only imagine is going to make you even closer, and them, like you said, feel more empathy or feel other people's emotions and be more observant of their own. I mean, what a gift to know that, heaven forbid, if any of them ever struggle with depression, anxiety, any type of mental struggles, that they know that they have you to turn to. They know that it's normal, doesn't feel normal health wise, but it's normal as the human condition to feel and go through these things. And there's things that can help you, and that there's no shame in asking and looking for help. So what a gift.
It's a
And
gift.
I'm sorry that you had to go and are going through all of this to give all of us this gift, but what a wonderful way to be able to turn around that experience to the projects. And still, I don't know, you just seem to take all the bad and it comes out of you good. And I don't know if that's a good or a bad thing. Are you feeling good about, like your soul refresh sets and the affirmations and stuff that you're doing? Is that a healing thing for you, or do you feel like you're still giving more from an empty well? Like how are you feeling about things?
No, that is totally a purpose project, a passion project. All of these are things that I needed but didn't have. So they're bits and pieces of how my healing journey became, and I'm able to share it with other people. And my thing is, like, if just one person is uplifted, if one person just feels and knows that there's somebody out there that loves them, that doesn't even know them, but that's rooting for them and supporting them, and just knows that they're important, that they are worth being here one more day, then I've met my goal, because those are the things that I probably needed, and they were probably there, but I just was not in that place to be able to just see it and recognize it. But thanks to the amazing community that I have, me being able to tell my story, and so many people that have been able to relate to it, it kind of just causes this ripple effect to where, we can continue to just pass it forward and make sure that we're all checking in within ourselves, but also finding that energy to pass it on to somebody else and just ensure that they're okay too.
Yeah, I think having your platform that you have and your willingness to talk about it is such a gift, because the more we talk about it, the more we give language to it that I don't think existed when we were younger. It was not something that was talked about. And it was shameful and scary and just so unknown. And so it's amazing and so special to me that you're willing to put that out there and reach your community, and thereby they can reach their communities, and on and on and on, and put some words around it. Like you said, Suzanne, it's normal, doesn't feel normal, but it's normal. And more people than not are going through some sort of mental health issue at some point in their life.
I think the biggest part of this has been also the older generation, because like you said, like it was just kind of whispered and talked about, is that my mom was actually, she's the one that told me. And I can't remember if I was still in the hospital. I feel like I was still in the hospital. She came up to visit me and she was like, I know in this moment it doesn't feel like it, but there's something more to this. Like, you're still here and I'm so thankful that you're here. But I really feel like just knowing who you are, that this is going to make it. And I was looking at her like, woman, do you see where I'm at?
I don't want to talk about that right now.
This is really what we're talking about. But Mama's know best and she knows me. And so, it took a process and it took, a lot, and it's still a process. And that's what I tell people. Like, I have a standing appointment every 2 weeks. And there's sometimes when we talked about it, like, I may need to come next week too. And there's no shame in that. There's absolutely positively no shame in that. I'm so thankful that it took a while to find the right for me therapist, but we get along really good and I can go in there and I can just be myself. I don't have to have any type of mask on. I'm not somebody's mama or, wife or friend or whatever. I'm just Michelle. And he'll say, my only responsibility is to be your advocate. And so, having that is something that I feel like I've not had in my adult life. And it's something that I needed because I wasn't taught how to function as an adult. I just kind of like, okay, I'm supposed to do all the things, but what about all of this stuff going on here and in here? Yeah. It's like, just let you out in the world like this? Or what?
It's so crazy, right?
Like,
how are we allowed to walk the streets? I don't get it.
It's a regular occurrence. And I'm like, I am the grown up.
Yeah.
It's me.
Yeah.
What?
Like, I'm responsible for a whole lot. How?
Oh my goodness. Well, you know what? And we're so grateful for your mom too. I mean, you're giving her all the credit that she deserves for realizing
that mama intuition.
Oh my goodness. And that you're able to be with us here today. Thank goodness for moms. Oh my gosh. Yeah. And then, and we've got Mother's Day coming up. So yeah, I don't mean to turn this into a marketing plug, but those Soul Refresh sets would be one heck of a Mother's Day gift, y'all. Yes. We'll link to it in the show notes.
Definitely.
But there's a lot of different options. Can you tell us a little bit about, I know that there's the book and there's the cards.
There's the cards. Yeah. So like I said, with the Soul Refresh sets, I have it to where there's like, you have the option to do a monthly where each month you get, a card set in the mail. And then as I do the monthly sets, I kind of build upon what's in there. And so you can purchase those one-off ones for like someone that just needs that pick me up. And so each set it includes a card that has some type of motivational theme. So I know the ones that are currently on the site, I know there's like I am, where it's just really focusing on self. And so it's finding that affirmation for you that works and that you can kind of put into your daily life. And so within it, there's just some really simple things, because I know as moms, we don't need a whole lot of stuff around in our lives anyway. We got a lot of stuff. So everything in there is meant to be where you can easily consume it or give it away to someone else to continue to be a blessing to somebody else. So usually there's like a sticker, there's some type of tip that's going to help you within your overall mental health and wellness, something to make you smile. Stickers, because everybody loves stickers. So if you want to, I've had some people that have put them on they showed me where they put them on their computers. Some people where they just pass it along or just put it in some place, where other people can see it. They're even on a couple of Starbucks boards across the way where, you can put the little.
Yeah.
That made my heart smile. And so there's I am, there's just breathe, and then there's one other one that of course my mommy brain can't remember right now. And we're going to be of course adding more into those as well. But yeah, they're just super simple things for you to just remind someone to take care of themselves and to pour into themselves, to give them that soul refresh moment while they're doing all the other things that we're having to do in our life. And then the affirmations. So of course, me kind of sharing where the affirmations came from. When I was in group therapy, one thing we had to do every day, and I hated it, is like when we started our day, when we came in, we had to say how we were feeling that day, how our morning was. I rolled my eyes a whole lot of times. I wasn't the only one, but we had to start an affirmation for the day. And so like when I was first introduced to affirmations, I was like, yeah, that's not me. That's like,
not doing it.
And so, but the affirmations that we were encouraged to create, they weren't those little like real fluffy, long ones that nobody can ever remember type of affirmations. They were essentially like, in this moment, what is it that you can say that's going to give you hope to be able to come back here tomorrow? To make sure that you don't relapse, to make sure that you are pouring into yourself. And so when I was doing those broadcasts on Periscope each day, I would literally some days my affirmation may be something like, I don't want to be here, but I guess I got it. I don't want to be here, but I'm just gonna try today. And so
Oh, I love it. Realistic affirmations. That
I
could be
think
like a
it's
whole
so
book.
useful.
Just like,
right. And so it was just one of those things where I wanted to collect, because they helped me so much. Again, that giver part of me. So I wanted to collect affirmations for other women that were just dealing with different things in their life, so that they could kind of pass that along to other people as well. And so that's how the Diva affirmations, the book came along, and then I turned the book into cards. So it's the same affirmations that you see in the book or with the cards. And of course, folks have asked what's next. So we'll see what's coming up. Of course, I'm sure I would be doing more Diva affirmations, because we need it. We just need that one little thing of positivity in our life. And when you can't find the words, and that's a big part about it, is like when you can't find the words, there's just something for you to be able to go and just pull and say, okay, this is what I'm going to grasp onto, and this is what I'm going to hold on today, in this moment, this week, or whatever, so that I can continue to put one foot in front of the other.
I love it. Before we get to our little end segment, you said something about your therapist and having a good relationship with your therapist. And it reminded me of the toxic positivity. There's so much in our world when you're going through something, when people are like, oh, you have so much to be thankful for. You have so much to live for. And the beauty of a good therapist is they're not going to do that to you. They're not going to try to out positive you. And it's so helpful. Have you found either or people in your life who are really just piling the toxic positivity on you, or people outside of that therapist who can talk to you in a real way that have helped you on this journey?
Well, those people are no longer in my life, because I created some really serious boundaries.
Smart.
That had to purge. And there were some people that I was very surprised that didn't show up, or the way that they showed up. And it may have hurt a little bit, but in the end, like I said, it was just about me. Like for the first time, probably since I was like a little kid, it was completely, totally about Michelle. If you had something negative to say, if you kind of came with that, like you said, that like, oh, but at least you're still breathing, ma'am, I don't know if I want to breathe today or not. Okay, so that's probably not the right thing to tell me. I have not lost my sense of sarcasm. That has always been me. People, I find myself not having as much patience for people that I know do not serve me well. And there are times where, I know my mom's always like, you cut people off so quickly. I do. And it's in that season, in that moment, because I know what I can handle. And so it's not one of those things where I'm just saying we're never going to be connected ever again. But if in that moment you're not giving me what I need, especially if I told you what I needed, like I'm not expecting people to be mind readers, but if you're not giving me what I need when I've said, like, this is what I need from you, then you're not respecting me. You're not respecting me, my boundaries. And so you don't get to be in my space. And so because I have purposely put it that way, I do have people that are pouring into me that accept the fact that when I say, I want to talk today, or I need a couple of days to just rest with everything that's going on, they respect that. And of course, if I go quiet for a little too long, like they'll send me a text message and say, I just want to make sure you're good. I miss you, whatever. But there's not that force where I feel as though I have to get on the phone and talk with you, or, you're going to come visit. And thank you, COVID. That doesn't happen a lot. But, those boundaries are really, really respected. And I'm thankful for that. And I just encourage people to create those boundaries. And unfortunately, sometimes the people that you may have to put on the other side of those boundaries, maybe people that, you feel as though you've had a really long relationship with. They've been a part of your life for a long time, but if they can't serve you where you're at right now, you're not getting rid of them forever. You're just letting them know that, we just need to take a little time out for a little bit. And if they don't respect that, that also says a lot about how they feel about you and what you're going through.
Right.
Yeah.
They're making you validate them in the course of pretending to help you. That's just too much.
Yeah. No,
Oh,
I
yeah.
don't have
Suzanne.
All right. I know I'm soaking in all this.
I know.
It kind of is leading into my look, listen, learns, but I'm not going to jump ahead, but I guess we do kind of have to jump ahead because we technically only have you for 6 more minutes. How's your timing if we go a little long?
I'm good.
You good? Okay. Cause I don't want to rush you through. So now we like to finish off our show with the look, listen, learn segment where we can share some of our favorite things that we've been watching, reading, or listening to, or learning recently. Michelle, do you want to kick us off?
Okay, so I do all three, or we?
Oh,
You can pick
pick
one.
your favorite. Just pick your favorite. We know we
Okay.
got you overtime
Okay.
already.
Okay. So, this is going to be really random, but what I've been looking at lately, I'm taking it back old school, but I have been watching Touched by an Angel and 80 Day Now. And I remember
I thought
watching
that
them,
Missy and I did the furthest jump backs. We're usually like, have you heard this movie? It's called Dirty Dancing. Okay, Touched by an Angel.
Oh my goodness, I love it. Like, I remember watching it as a kid, but in the space that I'm in now, like the things that they talk about and just the life lessons are just like, I cry every morning. Like that's my purge, because it's a happy cry, because you see like just the wonderfulness of life in itself. And so I'm glad I found it, and it makes my heart happy. I watch it every morning. That's like my little wake up. Instead of watching the news, I watch it.
Oh yes. Yeah, that's
So much healthier.
Better. Much better. Oh my gosh, I would have never guessed that one in a million years, and that's awesome. That's yes, bring it.
It makes me
back.
want to go check it out, because I know it was on the TV when I was young.
Yeah, I never watched
it.
I've never seen it.
It makes you look at things a little, especially because of again, like we said, the stuff that they were talking about. Like, this came out in 89. I had to look at it, and so here we are in 2021, and I can still relate to so many of the they were ahead of their times. So here's my other look. I get a lot of slack for this on social media, but Little House on the Prairie, I absolutely love that show.
Oh yes.
I absolutely love that show. So those two shows, like the things that they addressed, you didn't realize just how ahead of their times they were. And it's just like that feel good moment where it's all wrapped up. You know what's going to happen. They're all going to sing Kumbaya at the end. And then now I can come back to life and be like, okay, if they could do it, I can do it too.
Oh yeah, I do love some Little House on the Prairie. Although I had to explain to my kids the other day, because my husband and I, whenever there's like a really dark episode of something, we'll be like, this week on a very special, how they always used to say that in our TV shows. Yeah. And so, I said that to him. I think we were watching The Falcon and Winter Soldier or something, and something like someone died or something. We're like, this week on a very special Falcon and Winter Soldier. And I had to explain to them what that meant. But I think that, gosh, I mean, even Silver Spoons and some of those shows used to have them. But I think Little House on the Prairie, I think, was the originator of this week on a very special moments. Yeah, Albert's gonna get in the cocaine, or what? No, I guess it wasn't cocaine. What was he on? Morphine.
It was
morphine.
Yeah, it was the morphine. Like
opium.
Oh, and then there was Sylvia. No one can get past the Sylvia. That was a 2 or a 3-parter. Oh,
I love you're going down memory lane of torturous episodes.
That show listen. And poor.
I love how you're focusing on the good parts, and I'm like all the episodes that took me to the dark place. So no, there's good episodes too, y'all.
They made their way. They kind of made their way through it. Like my kids even started getting invested in these people's lives. So I'm just passing on the greats to the next generation. There we go. I've done
okay, well, I know what I'm doing later today. Okay.
I know, it makes me want to go pull some up and watch them. And I do feel like the older I get, the more I appreciate that tied in a bonus. Like I
Mhm.
I love a good procedural. I love a little bit of drama. I like a mystery, but I also love to know how it's going to end. And so often TV does not do that, or movies don't do that for you, or at least it's not in a nice tidy bow. So I get that it feels good to watch it and it's compact and done and you leave with like, oh.
Here, and I thought you were going to say that getting older makes you appreciate Nels Olson.
Listen,
I am
I want to
Nels.
know what happens to him after the show ended. I feel like I really feel like one day he just locked Harriet down in the cellar and was just like, "Forget this."
And he just walked off to, like, what are some of the names of
He
the
left
towns?
once, remember?
Oh my
He did
God.
leave.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that poor man. And
Okay,
oh,
I can talk about
gosh,
Little
we
House
could do
on
a
the Prairie
whole
also.
episode just on Little House on the Prairie. Okay. Yeah.
For sure.
Okay. What I could go all day, so you better jump in
I
here,
know.
Missy, with your look, listen, learns.
Oh, okay. Gosh, I wish I had a different one queued up in my head, but this is what I was already thinking about. I wanted to think of something along the nice light lines we've just been talking about, but forget it. I don't have that. I binged the Apology Line podcast. Have either of you heard of the
No.
Apology Line?
Oh,
Have
I
you
think
listened,
Michelle
Michelle?
has.
I started it because I listen when I'm in the car usually, and so apparently
Yeah.
I need to take some long drives. But oh my goodness, like I listened to the first couple, and I was just, yeah.
It
So
is,
now I'm gonna have to binge it.
yes, I need you to finish it because I do need to talk to somebody about how it ended. That's all I'm going to say.
I'm there for
It's
it.
called the
Give me a day.
Apology
Give me a day,
Line.
and I got you. Oh my goodness, yes,
Yeah, it's called the
yes.
Apology Line from Wondery, and it's
Oh
like
my gosh.
nothing else I've ever listened to.
I love how whenever you say this stuff, I like literally take notes as if don't have a recording of this.
And
that
as
I
if you're
can
not going to
refer
edit it and
to.
listen to it 20 times
Yeah,
again.
okay. I've got it written down here too, just in case that all
Yeah,
goes
it's
kablooey.
interesting as a podcast, I think, just from it has nothing to do with the content of the show, but it's a lot of old tapes, like from all the way back in the 80s. And so the quality isn't always super clear. And because I have old ears from way back before the 80s, like at times I really have to focus. It's not like a podcast you can, like if you are driving around and having to focus on where you're going, you might miss some of it. So I ended up just like, I'm embarrassed to say it, but I sat very still for like 3 hours and blazed through this podcast because I needed to focus to really hear all of it. If I was trying to be in the kitchen and do stuff, I would miss parts because some of the audio is old. So anyway, that's just a side note. If you also have not so young ears, then
Okay. We will
focus.
You're a
be warned.
listen.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I love a good new follow. I'm listening to a true crime one right now and I need a break because actually, oh shoot, now I can't remember the name of it. It's like Crime Junkies.
Oh, Crime Junkies. Yeah.
Crime Junkies. And
People
I
like,
love
what
the
the
two
world?
ladies. I love the two ladies because I think of you and I, Missy. Like there's one that's like the main, like not the sponsor, the main voice of the
Host.
host. What is it that we do?
What are you are? You're a host.
Okay. So there's the one that's the main host that she introduces herself as the host. She'll be like,
Yeah.
so it would be as if I said, I'm the host, Suzanne Kearns, and you'd be like, and I'm Missy. That's how their introduction is.
And I'm here too.
Oh my gosh, that's exactly.
That cracks me up every time. But then it also
But she's not
cracks me
there
up.
every time, is she? The one, she's not always there.
All the ones I've listened to, she's
Okay.
there.
I think.
I don't know. Maybe she just sneaks in there. But then they'll always have these conversations as if like it's a total surprise. Be like, and guess what he found under the stairs? And then you'd be like, whoa, what could it be? It's just like, oh my God, I just love it. It's just this false drama that is just so great. They
Ashley
make crime
Flowers.
fun.
Is her name? Her name's Ashley Flowers, right?
That
the
sounds
main girl?
right.
Is that, you know how I found Crime Junkies? Have
How?
you? She has another podcast that she did called Very Presidential.
Oh, no.
That's how I found her. And so from there, of course, you know, she was promoting Crime Junkies. So when I went
Yeah.
through Very Presidential is like, it follows, I think they had like maybe 10, 15 episodes, but they gave you like the backstory of different presidents in history. And it
Oh,
was just like,
Ooh.
like,
oh, I want to listen to that.
yeah, it sucked me in. And I was like, wait, we didn't learn that in the history books. Like
Yes.
you
Oh,
will
look
look
at
at
me.
a
I'm
lot
writing
of
it
these,
down again.
write it down, write it
I'm gonna
down.
write it.
But
Very
yeah,
precedent.
I was shocked, like listening to it. My kid, again, listening to it in my car, my kids would listen to it too. And Veronica, my night, she's like, they didn't tell us about that. I was like, baby, it's not going to be in your school book at all. But
Yeah, there's a lot of stuff missing from your school books.
Oh, way
yeah,
too
so
much.
that
Way too
that
much.
podcast, if you've not listened, Ashley does that one, and that's how I ended up on her Crime
Crime
Junkies
Junkies.
one. But it's good.
Ooh, I'm going to add that to my list because
I
I need
know.
something. Now that I finished the apology line, I want something else. I like that it's not very many episodes and I can just binge it.
And each
Yes.
episode stands completely on its own. So like if you
Yes.
scroll through there, you can find like, oh, let me see what Grover was up to.
I love it. Okay, I'm getting a long list, which is good because I'm still not done staining my fence, which has been an ongoing project. And podcasts are my favorite thing for doing projects like that.
So what's your look, listen, learn this week?
Oh my gosh. I was going to talk about This Is a Robbery, but I've decided it's not as interesting. It's interesting enough. It's about an art heist at the Isabella Stewart Gardner Museum. It's basically someone just turned their house into a museum. I mean, it's a big house, it's a mansion. And they just decided they had like $500 million worth of art in there. And they're just like, let's just have two guys that are like high school seniors and in a band be our security guards. So surprise, surprise, it got robbed. So
Never thought.
I almost watched that last weekend. We were looking for something to watch and we almost did, but then
it's interesting. It goes through a trail of like how they figured, well, they still don't know who has it, but like who could with all these mobsters and all these people. But what I am going to say, and this kind of picks up with where I was saying, Michelle, that we're so grateful for the essays that you write on racial injustice and discussions that you have to have with your sons. I was part of the planning committee for Austin ISD's Pride Week last week. So I kicked it off with an ally session on Monday night, trying to basically get parents who don't have kids that are gay, who don't have kids that are trans, to care about these kids and what their life and their school is like. And I'm gonna pitch her again. This Kelly Rippon, we love her. Kelly, she was a guest a few episodes ago, mom of Olympic skater Adam Rippon. But she was generous, so generous. She shared her time that and for our main Saturday session. But she gave a great overview of kind of like what she thinks is important to be an ally. And I think it applies to whether it's LGBTQ ally, whether it's a racial ally, whatever it is. So she said, don't make the person who is being oppressed do the work.
Yep.
Like basically, it is up to you to do the research. Don't take your one gay friend and have them answer all the questions you have about, how you can help support them. I mean, it's nice to ask, like, how can I support? But this is another point that another friend of mine gave that, she's like, just because I'm a lesbian doesn't mean I'm an activist. Like, there are people in every marginalized community who that is their thing. They strive to educate. They strive. That's their personality. It's this perfect intersection of being marginalized, but also having a big voice and being ready to go out there and fight the fight. Not everybody's that. And so use those people, the information. They got books, they got websites, they got podcasts. Get the information from them on how to support anyone in your life who you feel needs support, instead of just going to the one person in that community who you happen to know or is your neighbor and try to make them your professor on all things around that subject. So that was my big learning from this week. And I knew it, but it's just a good reminder because we're lazy. We like to, if we got information and we're like, hey, I don't know how things are for undocumented people coming over the border in Texas. How is that? Well, I'll go ask this, the one person I know who fits that bill. And I'm going to ask them all 100 questions I have about it. No.
And if they know all the other people. Like,
Yes.
oh,
Right.
you're gay. Do you know this other gay person? Or, like
Yes.
they
I
don't know
each other.
every experience of every undocumented person because they don't know them all.
Yes. So, but anyway, so don't be lazy, do the work, do the research, and then use wherever your privilege is to speak up on
Mhm.
behalf of that person, not to speak for them, but to amplify what you have learned in your research and to bring it into your community,
Mhm.
into your circle of friends. 'Cause, yeah, that's what I
It's a good
took
one.
away from Pride Week, and I'm applying it to very many different areas of my life. And yeah, I try not to make my friends do the work for me.
Yeah, well, before we leave and let you go, since we've kept you well over an hour, where can people find you? Where's the
The,
best place to follow you?
the Instagram. I love me some Instagram. So if you're on Instagram,
Okay.
Diva MD Garrett is my handle. And then my blog is Divas with a Purpose. But if you go to Diva MD Garrett, you'll be able to find all my links from there.
All right. We'll link to everything. We'll link to the blog and Instagram. And you have a Facebook group, or is it just a Facebook page?
Just the Facebook page now, because again, I had to let some things go. And so right now it's the
Yes.
Facebook page. And we'll see. But then the group may
Yeah.
come back together again. But for right now, I've got a really great community on Instagram that we kind of
Okay.
have clicked and gelled together.
Perfect.
Wonderful.
right.
And we will, like I said, be directing people for some Mother's Day gift ideas. I think that yeah, we'll put up
I
a
think
link
I'm about to
there as
order
well.
several.
I know.
Yeah.
I like the card. I like the book idea and the card idea.
I know. I was making
Maybe
mental
book for
lists
me,
while we were
cards to
talking, like
give.
who I need to buy. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Yeah, we're definitely going to put that link in the notes too. And it's called the Soul Refresh set, correct? If people are,
Yes.
just in case people
Soul
don't go to
Refresh
the show
Tech
notes.
is the
Perfect. All
Yay.
right. Oh, well, thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
You're generous with your time. You're generous with your story, and we appreciate it so much. You're going to help a lot of people through your story and through your soul refreshing sets and the affirmations. I think that that's exactly what a lot of people could use to get a little more focus and direction in their days. So
Yeah. I love the idea of a quick affirmation. Nothing too complicated.
yes, you know what
I
moms
I can't do
need.
complicated.
You know what moms need. All right. Well, thank you
Well,
so much for all
yes.
your time.
Thank you, ladies, so much. I love this. So now, look, my newest binge is I need to go binge all of the mom and ... podcast because there's no episode. So, all right, ladies, this has been awesome.
Have a
I
wonderful
appreciate
afternoon.
So good to catch up with you. All right.
Bye.
Bye, Missy. Bye. Bye, Michelle.
Bye.
Thank you so much for joining us for the Mom and ... podcast. We hope you enjoyed the show today. And if you know someone else who could benefit from today's episode, be sure to share it with them. Also, please subscribe and rate us wherever you listen to podcasts. You can find links to all the things we discussed today in the show notes over at our website, momandpodcast.com, with the AND spelled out. In between shows, you can find us at the socials, including our private Mom and Community Facebook group. You can find links to the group, all of our socials, and our questions and comments section over at our website, momandpodcast.com. Thank you so much for your support. We appreciate you so much. Now go out there and make your ellipses count.